Welcome to GJA Spotlight, a space for conversations about advocacy, compassion, and human flourishing. Each episode highlights stories, perspectives, and small actions that create a meaningful difference in our communities and beyond. Whether you're listening as a counseling student, an advocate, or someone who just simply cares about people, we're glad you're here. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Global Justice Advocate Spotlight. I am Dr. Dawkins. I'm one of the faculty advisors for the Global Justice Advocates Club, and I am here with two wonderful people. Kick it over to Andrew for an introduction of himself.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I am the Vice President of GJA, Global Justice Advocates at GCU. And I just graduated with my my master's in Master's of Clinical Mental Health Counseling degree. And I'm really happy to be here.
All the words. And did you mention you're our Vice President?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, great. Well, he's our vice president, y'all. We love him. He's been fantastic. So today we are excited. We are joined by our lovely guest, Dr. Catherine Mueller-Bell. She is a clinical mental health counselor and a professor with over 40 years of experience in the field. She has served as a professor of clinical mental health counseling for over 2 decades and specializes in trauma-informed care and intercultural counseling. Dr. Mueller-Bell is deeply engaged in global counselor education with work spanning countries like Zambia, Peru, and India. She currently serves as the chair of the Global Justice Counseling Committee here at GCU, Grand Canyon, and is passionate about promoting human dignity, healing, and justice across diverse communities. Also, in addition to her professional work, she is an elder at her church where she leads soul care retreats, which I'm going to come to one of your soul care retreats, Dr. Mueller-Bell. And she lives in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee with her lovely husband and her two sweet huskies. She also really enjoys spending time with her sweet children and adorable grandchildren. So we are truly honored to have you with us today, Dr. Mueller-Bell. And I am going to step back and turn it over to Andrew and let you all get chatting.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I guess I just wanted to start by asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself from your perspective, since we just heard Dr. Dawkins say a lot about you, and what inspired you to be an advocate?
Yes, thank you so much, Andrew. I would say that over the past 40 years, I've been blessed to really live out what has been truly a calling in my life. And I can remember back when I was really young that I was really bothered by different injustices that I would see as a child. It really affected me a lot when I would see some of the discrimination, or you think of like all the isms in society, the ills of society. So, different types of prejudice, discrimination, injustice. And I saw that because we moved a lot from urban to rural contexts when I was a child, and it just really bothered me. So that's what actually led me to come into the counseling field. I was really affected by just seeing such harm and the hurtfulness of some of the stigma, even with mental illness, stigma with poverty. And I was really upset about racism, affected me a lot. And then over the years, I've just been bothered by all the isms and forms of ways that humans tend to exclude folks. So that's really bothered me. And I wondered how it affected people's worth as I got older. And that's what led me to want to know how they're doing and what could I do to be any part of promoting justice and instilling hope and facilitating healing and amplifying the voice of those that are marginalized or disenfranchised. And so it's been a true honor, and I've learned so much and continue to learn so much from different cultural contexts in the States and also abroad in different countries like Zambia, Africa, and Cusco, Peru, and Chennai, India are the three places I've served the most abroad. But then in the States, I would say urban Chicago, Boston, Michigan, Tennessee now, where I live now.
Mhm.
So that's really stayed with me, that just passion for wanting to promote dignity and justice in those communities.
So I think what's really been kind of like difficult for me, I'm sure there's other students in, especially in our group, in our club, that we have like a passion for helping. Obviously, we're in a helping profession, but um, when you say racism, it seems like such like a broad thing to try to like tackle. How did you find, I guess, the niche that you're in? Like, how did you narrow it down to a way that you, as Dr. Mueller-Bell, how did you go into the field and be able to like actually help in the way that you do now?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of prayer. All of my work is from a Christian worldview, and I literally would pray for being in sites or contexts that provided counseling services to those that would not have access typically. Because what I started to notice back in the 80s, when I graduated in 1986 with my master's degree in counseling from Lesley University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, started to notice how expensive counseling was and how elitist it was becoming, that a lot of folks could not um, have any proximity or access to getting those services. And so I looked for places that maybe was providing that somehow in creative ways. And so I was drawn to places like community mental health.
Mm,
And I was drawn to places like domestic violence shelters or homeless shelters. And so, in these contexts, they were providing amazing counseling services. Oh, and also what they're called alternative schools now, but back then they were called therapeutic day schools for children and teens that were expelled from public school. And
mm,
so I had a heart for that because they were, again, on the margins. There's a lot of stigma, there was a lot of rejection, and then on not access to counseling services. So that really bothered me. So I sought those places out after a lot of prayer and thinking about a Christ centered approach and what Jesus did in his work to reach out to those that are marginalized and sort of shunned by society, which bothers me to this day. And so I became a passionate advocate because of that. I wanted to give platforms to people that are not given those platforms. And I've learned so much from people that the hardest working people I know live in poverty. And so
mhm,
some of the myths I love dispelling. And so I just really prayed for places like that. And God was faithful. And I served in a lot of places that what I learned was they had experienced racism by being excluded in ways that are very either covert or overt. And so I learned a lot about microaggressions and our bias and our blind spots. And I learned by listening to those who had gone through that kind of discrimination. And so
mm.
that's really what I learned over the years as God has blessed me with these relationships in different counseling contexts. And then GCU values global citizenship so much and social justice. So I'm just so grateful for GCU. And it's such a
Yeah.
fit for me. It's really fits with my values in every way that I can think of. So
So when you were starting off and like really going through advocating for this population, um, how did you find advocates to join you, or how did you find like a community or support? And yeah, I guess can you warn us for like on what not to go down, like what roads not to go down, if there are any? I don't know if there are.
yeah. Well, I think they found me in a way because they were already there at these sites. People that
Mhm,
work at these sites are really unique and special people because they're really in the trenches and do the hard work of reaching out to populations that a lot of people choose not to. And so I met a lot of, I'd say, gentle warriors, that were just really brave, courageous, really had huge hearts, and I was just trying to keep up with them. I think of all
Mhm.
my professors at Lesley University, and I think of my first internship, how it was at an alternative school that was called a day school back then, a day therapeutic day school in outside of right in the outskirts of Boston in a very impoverished area, and just absolutely loved that job. And then I was able to apply for a full-time position there and was honored to get that. Now the challenges of that population is my salaries have always been really low because when
Mhm.
you choose that
Yeah.
kind of context, that's one of the challenges. And to me, it was worth it. I never went into this field um, for wealth, and I had enough to live on. But it meant more to me to be able to be in this context because it was so valuable to me to try to figure out how to be any part of just promoting humanity and empathy and compassion for those that are excluded because it's heartbreaking. And then I would pray about what breaks the heart of God because I want that to break my heart. And that's a hard prayer. That's a tough
Yeah.
prayer, and it breaks you wide open in a way that helps you be more, I think, emotionally available because you're willing to go there. And I've learned this from other mentors, other pioneers in the field that are social justice counselors. And that's why we started the Global Justice Counseling Committee at GCU. It's Dr. Anna Edgston's vision. She's the director of the counseling program. And she had this vision and asked me to lead that. And that's just been the blessing of my vocational life to be any part of that. And then for you now to be on the Global Justice Advocates that Dr. Angelita Dawkins and Dr. Cindy Murphy started after the Global Justice Counseling Committee started. It's just been, I mean, just pure joy. So there are challenges, and I would say the things to avoid is the places that won't offer support because you need a lot of support when you're in this kind of um, context because there's a lot of bittersweet moments. And
Mhm.
it's heartbreaking work. And so I would avoid places that have an unavailable supervisor. Find a supervisor who has compassion, who has a commitment to, and you've already completed this, but interns has commitment to interns, commitment to new counselors, because that's what I found in those contexts, and try to avoid the places that the supervisors are just unavailable because they're probably overwhelmed, maybe even burnt out. So, yeah, that would be my advice.
Do you think that our profession is like, do they celebrate um, advocacy, or do you think that there are like it's not? It's like yeah, it's part of our code of ethics. Like they want us to be advocates, but do you think that it is just from your experience actually something that a lot of people do in our profession?
I would say, first of all, that's a great question because I do know some have chosen not to do that because it is not something that everybody would know is expected of us, even though the American Counseling Association makes it crystal clear
Mhm.
advocate is at the center of our counseling identity. However, it is hard. It takes courage because you're going to have to lean into suffering locally and abroad that's disturbing and upsetting and difficult. And there's, post traumatic stress disorder you're going to see in people that are living in that sometimes. And then you might have vicarious trauma as a counselor, secondhand trauma. And so I have noticed some counselors do not choose to put themselves in those situations. So that's why it's a great question because it's a question that has a lot of insight.
Mhm.
There are
Thank
people
you.
that choose not to. And I hope we can invite people to choose to lean into that because I would argue that every client we have is a intercultural, multicultural experience, no matter
Mhm.
what. Even if we're the same race, maybe we're a different gender, or maybe somebody is single and the counselor's married, or it could be weight, it could be height, it could be all kinds of things. So what we're always going to need to have that cultural competence, studying multicultural counseling, or what's now called intercultural counseling, is not something you want to avoid, but I know some people do, and I
Hmm.
hope they don't.
Yeah, I guess this will be I think our last question. We only have time for one more, but um, yeah, the courage thing was pretty. I like that. I like that you said that you hope that we have courage as like aspiring counselors or new counselors. Um, just from your own experience, how could you relate, just from your experience, what being courageous, what comes from being courageous in these advocacy roles, right?
Mm, yeah, it's the why question, right? Like, why would we do that? And it's a great
Hmm.
question. I would say the results are exhilarating, deeply rewarding, because what you see is people overcome the negative effects of the discrimination they've experienced. You start to see them flourish and thrive because they are have been affirmed, they've been recognized, which is something I believe humans long for. And
Hmm.
that sense of belonging and knowing that not only are they good enough, they are gifted. Every human is gifted, every human has beauty, and um, the world needs them, and that we're image bearers, all of us. And then to acknowledge that the reality of the isms, that we can't just say, oh, I'm colorblind, because that could dismiss and minimize the people that have gone through the reality and the harm of discrimination. We need to recognize, no, there are differences, and that people have been treated differently. We want to promote equity at the same time of acknowledging the differences and the pain and the hurt and the generations of that, and what we can do to foster hope. So the reward is deeply meaningful, and it can spur you on to promote longevity in your profession. Not to say that people that have had access to resources and have had wealth and never experienced much discrimination don't need counseling, because they do. It just, if you are setting up a practice, I would recommend that you try to see a whole range of different folks, whoever God brings your way, and be open and non judgmental about all of them. But the rewards are deeply meaningful because you see healing. You see
Hmm.
transfer transformation that is authentic, and the gratitude folks feel. I learn more, I know, from them than they've ever learned from me. So I would say it's so worth it, and it helps you look at your blind spots and your bias. And bias isn't evil; it's just we know what we know from our
Yep.
experience. But hopefully, we would want to expand that bias to try to see things from the frame of reference of other. And that's what it calls us to do, is not be self-centered, but focus on empathy and the experience of the other when we are counseling and promoting counselor education.
What did you mean by we're all image bearers?
Yeah, so in the Christian faith, in the Bible, it's written that each human being was created by God to bear the image of God, male and female, and that
Hmm.
we are all of worth because of that. And so we are, our identity in the Christian faith, we believe, is our identity is in Christ. And so Jesus has been the best example to me of justice and social justice uh,
Hmm.
throughout my entire vocation. And I'll continue to do this work until I can't. I'm 62 now, and I'll keep serving.
You'll
I'm
keep
not,
making it. Yep.
yeah. And it's a calling. So I encourage you all, and to take really good care of yourselves. Good soul care is important.
Well, thank you for doing all the work that you do and for talking to us for a little bit.
You're so welcome, Andrew, and I appreciate you so much.
Dr. Dawkins, do you end the thing again or do you?
Yeah, I'm gonna wrap us up. Thank you both. That was such an inspiring conversation, really, to hear your experience, Dr. Mueller-Bell. And Andrew, I love the questions that you asked, and really from a new counselor perspective and counseling student, counselor in training perspective of how do we do this thing? What does it look like? And loving, really thinking about how we have to call on our courage and really lean into those moments of courage to be able to step into the advocacy piece of our counselor identity. So, thank you both so much for your time, and thank you all our listeners for joining us. We can't wait to see y'all back for the next one.
Thanks for spending time with us on GJA Spotlight. To stay connected and see what we're working on next, follow us on Instagram at GCU_Global Justice Advocates. Until next time, keep showing up and staying curious.